All right, well, welcome in, everybody. Good afternoon. To everybody that's here, that made it in person for FlightSimExpo 2021, let's go. But also to our viewers on YouTube and on Twitch. Hello, viewers. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am TheFlyingFabio. I have a tendency of walking around, but I was talking to our cameraman, Bill, back there, who implored me not to do so as much. So, Bill, I'm going to try my best, buddy. Okay, well, so guys, welcome. Welcome to a talk I've been looking forward to for a while now. And it's a talk I've been meaning to do because I wanted to share a little bit of how I got to be where I am today. I feel very privileged, very lucky to be where I am today. And a lot of people ask me, how did you do it? How did you end up where you are? And so I'd like to share a little bit of my story of what got me here, how I got here. And then at the end, we'll open up for some questions and answers, both here and online. So I have a half an hour with you guys. I'll try to get through my story in about 15 minutes, and then we'll hopefully have another 15 minutes of questions and answers. All right, so it all started when my dad met my mom. No, I'm just maybe not then, but it didn't start much after that, because I've been sort of attached to aviation since I was a little baby. My father was a pilot for his whole professional career, and he was the only pilot in the family. We didn't have pilots before him, but he was very, very involved in aviation. For a good chunk of his career, he was the chief pilot at a Brazilian manufacturer called Embraer, who, when he joined, was a very small company that was just getting started, and today is one of the biggest players in aviation in the world. And so I was always very attached to aviation. I always had that example to kind of look up to and to follow. And so growing up, that's really the only thing I ever wanted to do. Is my dad was a test pilot, so I wanted to be a test pilot. It's the only thing I knew. And a lot of my life, a lot of the things I did outside of school were geared towards that. And it helped that my dad would actually take me flying sometimes. You know, these were different times with different rules. Things were a little bit looser than today. And so I went into a few production flights. I remember one such flight was after he gave me a copy of, the first copy of Microsoft Flight Simulator. So I've been flying Microsoft Flight Simulator since the first version, not the Sublogic version, right? Originally, that is the true origin of the sim as we know it today. But once it became Microsoft Flight Simulator, my dad was here in the United States delivering an Embraer aircraft, and he bought a copy. And he also bought a PC, a Tandy PC Junior, for those of you that remember what that was. And so I was able to play Microsoft Flight Simulator, which at the time had visuals almost as good as we have today. Just a little bit under what we have today, right? But those visuals were actually what drew my preference to this day in how I fly. Because there were no visuals. The visuals were, you had a line for the horizon, and that was it. It was black above the horizon, and it was black below the horizon, right? And if you were lucky, you had a grid below the horizon to tell you that was the ground. Which meant most of the flying you did in that sim was instrument. You didn't really have a lot to look at, but you had your six-pack, you had your altimeter, you had a heading indicator, right? You had a vertical speed indicator. And so my dad was able to use that to teach me how to fly instrument before I learned how to fly visually, which is sort of opposite of how most people learn to fly, right? So we fast forward to the production flight that I'm on. At the time, I'm about 8 years old, and we're flying a Xingu, which was a turboprop, a twin turboprop, kind of a small King Air that Embraer made to compete with the King Air and ended up not working so well as a product. But it was my dad, another pilot, and me. So I'm sitting in the jump seat in the middle of the two. And we're up at altitude. And eventually my dad says, he's talking to the other pilot about teaching me using Flight Simulator, and he says, watch this, right? So he gets out of the seat, and he puts me on the seat, and he actually puts a little cushion, because I'm so little that I can't really see over the glare shield very well, right? So he puts a cushion in the seat, and I still can't really see above the glare shield, but I'm not concerned because I'm not interested in what's outside the window. I want to see the instruments. That's what I know. And so he says, all right, Fabio, I want you to keep whatever heading, blah, 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 and this altitude and this speed, right? Okay, got it, boom. And I'm on because it's just like at home, right? I got my little gauges and I'm doing it. And the other pilot is amazed that this 8-year-old can do this kind of stuff, right? But then my dad shows the other side of what happens when you do this. So then he boosts the seat all the way up so I can see over the glare shield. You know, can you see? Yeah, I can see a little bit. And he says, all right, you see that cloud straight ahead? Yeah, I see the cloud. All right, all I want you to do is I just want you to fly straight towards that cloud. Couldn't do it for the life of me. I was all over the sky because I had never, ever looked at something and tried to fly towards it, right? So very, very different experience in how most people learn to fly. Fast forward to when I'm 17, and now I'm actually learning to fly. I'm going to flight school, right? And constantly, I'm learning in a tail dragger in Brazil. At the time, you had to learn in a tail dragger, which is probably a good idea, actually. But that meant that I sat in the front and my instructor sat in the back, just like a normal sort of Piper Cub, right? It was the Argentinian version of a Piper Cub, but effectively a Piper Cub. And the instructor in the back is constantly hitting me upside the head because all I do is I look at the instruments. And this is private pilot, right? I need to be looking out. We're in the traffic pattern. I need to be looking at the runway. I need to be looking for other planes. And I'm focusing on the instruments because that's what I knew. That's what I was comfortable with. So by the time that I'm getting my flight lessons, right, my dad eventually sits me down and says, listen, what do you want to do in life? What is really your purpose? And I said, I want to do what you do. I want to be a test pilot. And he says, okay, listen, I have a deal for you. If truly this is what you want to do, then here's what I propose. I've been in aviation long enough to know that sooner or later, you're likely to be unemployed, right? That's what happens in aviation. It happens to pilots, happens to maintenance technicians, to anybody. Aviation fluctuates up and down. So he said, so you need to have a fallback. You need to do something else. And if you do something else, I'll help you with your licenses, right? And that something else, after we discussed, ended up being aerospace engineering, where I went to Embry-Riddle University. Because I figured, hey, if I'm going to do something, I might as well do something that's going to help me. If I want to be a test pilot, having an engineering degree is awesome. That's going to help me talk to the engineers that designed the plane, right? That's a good idea. So we made the deal, and I started my lessons, my flying in Brazil, and eventually went to Embry-Riddle in Daytona Beach and got an aerospace engineering degree from there. And so now, actually, I'm in college, and oh no, sorry, this is after college. So let me graduate first, and I'll tell you the next story. But upon graduation, I had a big wake-up call because now I'm ready, right? I got my licenses, I got my engineering degree, I can be a test pilot, let's go. And I've been talking to a lot of the flight instructors that I had started flying with in Brazil that now are working for Embraer, and some of them are even test pilots for Embraer now, right? And my father is now retired, so I'm talking to sort of the new generation that's doing it now. And the more I talk to them, the more I realize that the job I want to do as a test pilot is not really the job of a modern test pilot, right? Because what I want to do is the Chuck Yeager stuff. You know, I want to kick the tires, light it up, see if it blows, right? Let's go, kind of thing. And in talking to them, they're saying, dude, that's, you know, this is 2003. This is the computers telling us how the plane is going to fly before we even fly. Like, we got this. Yeah, don't get me wrong. There's still, you know, 5% of the entire flight test program. That's still very exciting, right? When you're doing your VMUs, your minimum unstick airspeed, there's still exciting stuff. But most of what we do nowadays is, hey, we're going to climb to flight level 220, and then we're going to gather fuel consumption data for 40 minutes. But then get ready, because we're going to flight level 240, and we're going to do the same thing for another 40 minutes, right? A lot of flight testing today is that. And that meant I was kind of lost. I didn't really know what I wanted to do anymore, because my whole sort of dream from when I was a very little kid until I graduated college is now not really my dream anymore. It's not what I want to do. And so I'm a bit lost. And you know, in retrospect, I think it's pretty good for people to be a bit lost sometimes in life, because you end up branching out into things you probably wouldn't try otherwise. In my case, I ended up developing add-ons for Microsoft Flight Simulator. And most people don't know this because our add-on was not that successful. But it transitioned me, right, into my job, flying business jets, and my job that I eventually got at Flight Safety International. So I had sort of 2 years after college where I had to sort of recalibrate my goals, right? Didn't really know what to do. And instead of sort of backpacking through Europe, which is, you know, some people do after college to figure out what they need to do, I went and developed some stuff for Flight Sim, which at the time was FSX. And so I was part of this tiny startup that was based in Wisconsin. And we created a little RV7A for FSX. And I was in charge of developing what at the time had never been done, which was a flight data recorder, a flight recorder for the plane. And so we could do aerobatics and show your roll rates and, you know, your pitch. It was really cool. It was a nice little, you know, piece of love that we had. But we were nobody, and so it wasn't that successful. But one of the things that we did as a company at the time was work with Flight Safety. Flight Safety International is a huge training company for real pilots using full motion flight simulators. And we were trying to develop a product for Flight Safety. Flight Safety was interested in a little simulator of a King Air that we were working on. And through those contacts, I eventually learned that there was a position available at Flight Safety for a flight instructor. And I had flown business jets by then. I was flying on the side as I did this. So I had some experience in the business jets that they were hiring for. And so I eventually applied, got the job at Flight Safety, moved to Teterboro, New Jersey, and you know, was in Flight Safety for 15 years at a company that I never even aspired to be a part of when I was growing up. I knew Flight Safety. All the Embraer pilots trained at Flight Safety. If you were in aviation, you knew Flight Safety, right? But I had never thought of working for them. I honestly, to me, those guys were up here, right? I was like, man, those guys are like the best instructors in the business, you know, kind of thing. But they train you up to that. So I worked at Flight Safety for 15 years, had a wonderful career there. And that career was ended by COVID, like a lot of aviation careers were either ended or interrupted. And mine really was interrupted. Like most people, I would have had the chance to go back if I wanted to. But when that happened, when I was laid off, I was immediately okay with it. And I think it's because I had sort of already realized my dreams, my goals at Flight Safety. You know, I was having this discussion the other night when we got here that some people can work in a place or even do the same job for their entire career, right? They literally make a career out of a job or out of a place, out of a company. And that's great. We need that, and I think that's very fulfilling for some people. But I've discovered that not everybody is that way, and I happen to be one of the people that's not that way. So I look at my 15 years of Flight Safety. I look at my 2.5 years developing for Flight Sim. I look at my preparations to become a test pilot as everything that got me to where I am today, right? Very little of it was actually planned to happen, or at least to happen when it happened. But I love the happenstance of it all, because it did get me to again, find myself jobless in April or May, maybe, of 2020. And at that point, I said, okay, had a nice career, what do I do now, right? I still got, well, at least a couple good years in me. What do I do? And so Abby and I were dating, we started dating and figured out, hey, let's try some different things, right? We had some dreams of a food truck or, you know, at that point, anything goes, right? Your dreams are all on the table. And one of the things I had always thought about doing was streaming, but never really thought that I was going to be good at it or that there was even a market or niche for what I wanted to talk about. And to this day, I still am amazed that there is, right? So I did see an opportunity to do it, when Microsoft Flight Sim came out, August 18th of 2020. And I streamed that very day. And I remember like gearing up for it and being excited about it, right? Being like, man, this is gonna be like the first time I've ever streamed in my entire life. And then like 2 or 3 days prior to the sim releasing, some streamers, there obviously were already established streamers, got access to the sim. They had early access and they started streaming. And I got so jealous. I was like, oh, come on, man. That's not fair. You know, I want to do it too. And now I have to wait. And by the time I can do it, then the fizz is already gone. But it really wasn't. I was really surprised at kind of the reception the sim had. And it was crazy to see that most of the people that came to watch me that first day, and there weren't that many, but most of the people that were there, they were not flight simmers. They didn't even know much about flight simulation. They were just interested. And it was really sort of nice to talk to them and interact in a way I had never done before. So from August 18th until when I actually started streaming actively, a month goes by because I'm sort of reeling from the experience, right? I'm thinking, okay, so that was interesting, but I only got, whatever, 6, 7 viewers that showed up. And is this really something that I want to invest a lot of time into? Because it does take a lot of time, especially early on when you do something like this. But I also, I thought back to a roommate I had when I was in college. And when I was a young adult, I was very careful not to get too involved in any relationships because I was very sort of geared into my career. I wanted to focus into growing professionally. And I thought that if I had a relationship, I might not be able to sustain both. And my roommate was the opposite, right? This guy would get into relationships and get his heart broken on a regular basis. You know, I had to help him all the time and console him. There were nights we stayed up and he's crying. You know, he was very different than me. And I remember, though, having a conversation with him, and once I asked him, I said, why do you do this to yourself, right? And he said, because if I don't dive headfirst, I'll never find that one person that's my person, right? If I'm always cautious in my relationships, we may be so cautious that it doesn't develop and I miss my opportunity. And I thought about that very conversation, and I said, you know what? I don't have anything to lose. I'm just going to jump into this streaming thing and see where it goes, right? And so I started streaming in September of last year. It's hard to believe that it's already been a year because it's been a wild ride. You know, the channel has become extremely popular. It's regularly one of the most watched flight sim channels on Twitch, which it's hard for me to stand here and say that because it's hard for me to believe that, right? I still get shocked every single day when people show up to hear me, you know, say stupid things and make stupid mistakes when I fly, which happens regularly. But I've also learned that the channel is way more than me or what I'm talking about or the content of the channel. The channel is about the community. And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing that I've come to really appreciate about us, about the flight sim community, right? Is that it's incredible how positive, how benevolent this community really is, right? I think a lot of us have had some pretty bad toxic experiences online in other communities because it's very easy to be toxic online when, you know, nobody even knows your name or who you are, or they're not even looking at you. And yet, we have a community where all those things still apply, and it's just a collection of incredible people. I mean, look at Sarah and what she was talking about earlier today. I hope you saw Sarah's talk, and if you didn't, you owe it to yourself to go back and watch the VOD because it's mind-blowing to see what a passion for aviation can do, right? The benefits, the growth, the education, the coming together that can happen when aviation is sort of the common piece. So I continue to feel extremely privileged about being where I am. I was speaking to somebody earlier who was developing an app, and the conversation was, you know, hey, you know, would you be interested in showing it to the channel? And is that sort of a sponsorship situation where? And I said, no, absolutely not, man. Part of why, or part of what I think the channel is for is that it belongs to the community, right? And so I owe it to the community to be able to show these things, to show these developments, to give a little bit of that spotlight to people that deserve it, to people that are developing some incredible, amazing things out there. I mean, you guys all know, look at the incredible mods that exist for all the sims that we use, right? And it's only because of passionate people are volunteering their time to do this kind of stuff. So the talk today was really just this. It was just a little bit of me, of my story, of how I got here. And hopefully you'll have some questions for me, and we can spend the next few minutes talking about what it is that you may want to know.
Excellent. So we got lots of time, actually, until I forgot that I think I said it was a half hour, but you do have 45 minutes, so that's good news.
Oh, perfect.
And
Thanks,
I'm
Evan.
Start with some questions off of the online show and Twitch, and then we've got our friend Sheed here who's going to help out with some questions from the audience as well, so that everyone can hear those. So I'm trying my best to wade through some questions from Twitch and from our online show, because most of it is comments about George Clooney.
Even here, I can't escape it.
My favorite is from Equalizer, who says, "I bet George Clooney is watching thinking that could have been me."
It's actually a pretty good one.
From Santiago of 90, apparently we are not ready for 4K Fabio, so I don't know what that means. And lots of really, really nice things as well. So if you can go back and read this chat, I think you'll appreciate that. Lots of people talking about how great it is to see you in pure presentation mode, not being distracted by the chat, so that's really cool. I don't have very many serious questions. The first one is, how do we redeem a banned word and see you eat some beans? And maybe more specifically, do you want to explain that for those who don't know what it's about?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Evan, I didn't fully hear the question. Can you repeat it?
Yes, the question is, how do we redeem a banned word and see you eat some beans?
You have to wait.
To, maybe you could explain what
That's right, that's right. The short answer is they'll have to wait until the next stream. And the long answer is I've begun, regretfully, a habit on the stream where we play a game where the chat will choose a banned word that I can't say for the next 60 minutes, which sounds super easy. Unfortunately, when it comes to that, my brain has an IQ below 20. So I rapidly launch into saying that word unknowingly multiple times, and therefore I'm forced to eat. For every infraction, I am forced to eat what some of you might be familiar with. It's a jelly bean called Bean Boozled. It's by the Jelly Bean Company, and basically it's a jelly bean that looks just like the good jelly bean, except it has a disgusting flavor. Like, I don't know, dirty dishwater, barf, stink bug, caterpillar. And trust me, they taste pretty accurate. So it's a fun game for chat, less fun for me, but it does keep me on my toes, trying not to say words like guys or VOR or climb. So it's yeah, that's what that's all about. Thanks, chat.
So I'll do one more from online, and then Sheed, there's a gentleman just in the front there that you can grab while we're doing that.
Perfect.
From Shack Attack 12, what is your favorite airplane to fly in MSFS?
Ooh, that's a great question. I get that question often. It's tough to answer. I'm not a guy of favorites. I always say this, people, what's your favorite food? And the answer is food. But I at least categorize it, right? So I'll say that I currently am flying, spending sort of about the same time flying the DC-6, which is going to be a plane that I fly a lot for a long time because it's an incredible plane, both the simulation and the actual aircraft. I've been spending a lot of time in the Coronado Seneca, which is a really pleasant small twin. We're actually, we launched a trip from Alaska to Ushuaia, where we do a leg every week, and it's been a lot of fun to get that started. I'm also a big fan of the Diamond 62. The Diamond 62 is a beautiful aircraft, both in the sim and in real life, and waiting eagerly for the 737NG. Right here. Thanks, Sheed.
How's it going, Fabio? I'm Sky Command,
Hey,
for those
Sky.
of you who are virtually here. It goes without saying that you're an obvious influence to a lot of us here in the community. And I'm going to break the rules and ask 2 questions. So, the first question I got from a podcast that it's called How I Built This, and you're talking about a little bit how you built yourself. So, the question is, the first one at least, is what ratio do you attribute luck versus hard work to your success?
Ooh.
And the second part is, if we can time travel back to the first time you logged onto Twitch and launched that first stream with the 6 or 7 viewers, if you can go speak to yourself, either in chat or in person, what would you say?
Yeah, easy, huh? Okay, so I'll start with the second one. And I think it's keep going, right? Because early on, it can be really tough. It can be very demotivating when you put a lot of time into prepping a stream or even doing a stream, and you spend several hours and nobody was there to watch it. Nobody was there to see it. Or even worse, somebody showed up and didn't like it, right? They showed up, 2 minutes later, they're gone kind of thing. But the reality is, chances are there's people out there for the content you're putting out. You just haven't been linked with them yet, right? And so keep at it. Keep at it. Now, keeping at it is not just showing up on Twitch and doing the streams. Yeah, you got to do that. That's the minimum. But what else can you do, right? There's a lot of other sort of self-marketing that you can do that helps tremendously. You know, marketing works. Ads work. That's why they exist. And you don't have to sort of sell out or super.
The factual development others here.
Yeah.
My question is, it's a little bit self-interested, I think, but there are so few streamers. There's really a handful of teachers who stream MSFS. And how do you think about, there's a variety of different types of flyers, like some are newer, some are GA flyers, some are flying the DC-6, some are doing the tubes. So how do you think about approaching teaching with such a varied group? Because you have 7,000 followers now as of last weekend, and several hundred subscribers. So I'm interested how you think about that every day. Because the thing that I like about the stream is like the Turbo Aero series is geared towards people like me who are relatively new. Although I've been flight simming for a long time, but really didn't take it seriously until last year. So that's my question.
It's a great question too. You guys came prepared. So I think it starts with my personal passion for all areas of aviation, right? So I'm interested in gliders, I'm interested in skydiving, I'm interested in flying a 747, I'm interested in flying an ultralight. And so to me, it's all the miracle of flight, right? And it's all got its own different interests and attraction while all being aviation. And so for me, it's very easy to talk about any area of aviation because I can talk just as passionately about this relatively simple thing in aviation versus this relatively complex thing because they're both interesting to me. I happen to be interested in life, right? Life interests me. Little things interest me. I've mentioned on stream before that my sister gave me a little painting I have on the wall that says, "The cure for boredom is curiosity." And then it says, "There is no cure for curiosity," right? And I'm an endless curious person, so I'm never bored. I'm always interested. I'm always looking at things. And so it's natural for me, I think, to want to pass that on. That curiosity just kind of shows, right? Well, then you couple that with the fact that we have a pretty broad spectrum of add-ons available, even for Microsoft Flight Sim, which is a very new sim, but certainly for the other sims, all the way from ultralights or jetpacks to the most complicated airliners, both modern and old. And it makes it very easy, right? But the trick, really, which I think is the crux of your question, is how do you teach something like that, right? How do you shift from teaching the airline mode to teaching general aviation to teaching anything? And I think it's a talent that you develop with experience in instructing, right? Because I remember early on when I got to flight safety, I was not nearly as versed in instructing as I was 15 years later when I left flight safety. And that can be probably said for any job, any experience-based skill in the world. Just like being a pilot, you get better at it the more that you do. So the key is being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, right? Often, I'm not thinking about something the way that I look at it. I'm thinking about something in the way that somebody that has never heard it before would look at it, right? Because I think that's how you approach teaching anything. That's how you teach a 5-year-old why water is wet, or it's how you teach a 50-year-old about, the theory of relativity. You start from simple and you go to complex. You start from known and you go to unknown. These fundamentals don't change no matter what you teach. And so it's a complicated answer because I think it's really an amalgamate of a lot of different skills and passions and perhaps techniques. but I seem to be lucky enough to be able to shift from one to the other relatively easily, right? So I don't have to kind of recalibrate. I can talk about this concept and then shift to talk to the other concept and in a rather rapid manner. And that is not something I can explain. That's something that just kind of happens. And it's not something I practiced, it's something I acquired naturally by having to teach a room full of people, right? At flight safety, for example, where half of the room would get it and half of the room didn't get it. Okay, well, what do you do now? Well, chances are these guys learn a little bit different, so let's try a different angle, right? Let's try a different direction. Ultimately, instructors learn what motivates a student. Why are they here? Why do they want to learn this? And if you can use that motivator during the explanation, or at least to keep the student going, because sometimes you got to get through dry stuff. No matter how interested you are, this bit over here is going to be dry, but we got to get through it, right? But then you use motivators. You try to find ways to get through the stuff that we have to get through, and then you use the stuff that's really engaging, and you kind of just bathe in that stuff, because that stuff it teaches itself, right? The student just loves that kind of stuff. Another important thing is involving people, right? I try to involve Chad on a very regular basis. First, because I enjoy that. But second, because I learned at flight safety that this phrase was said by Confucius. I think it's been long enough that we don't really know if that's true or not. But the phrase still applies, right? And I'm going to try to recall it. But it says, tell me something and I'll forget. Show me something I might remember. Involve me and I'll understand, right? And it's critical to me that only in that last one, the word understand appears. Because even up to the point where I showed you how to do something, yeah, you can repeat that action, but it doesn't mean you understood why we're doing that action. And that is one of the very fundamentals of instruction, right? Is rote recollection only goes so far. I can teach a monkey to, hey, move the lever, and the monkey's going to learn that eventually when I say move the lever, you're going to move the lever. But why are we moving the lever? That's a level of understanding that the monkey might never achieve. And I think our goals as instructors really is to get that connection, because when you get that sort of light bulb to go off, that person, like the saying says, will never forget that anymore, right? It's no longer something that you knew and you transfer to them. It's something that they learned themselves by doing, by being involved. And that experiential learning, you can't get there by any other means. There's your 10-second answer to your question.
Going to go back to Twitch, Two-Tone Murphy coming through the great question, and also a big thanks to him for the awesome intro video that we saw at the beginning of FlightSimExpo.
It was okay.
This question is, do you find limitations or restrictions with flight sims when it comes to teaching viewers? Are there certain topics you just can't use?
That's a good question too. I think the short answer is no, because I don't accept it, right? Meaning, there is always going to be limitations no matter what simulator you use. Even in the aircraft, you have limitations. There's tons of stuff you can't really do or do safely in the aircraft, but it doesn't mean you can't teach it. It doesn't mean you can't come up with a creative way to do it. So, yeah, I think there's no topic that I can't teach or talk about. It's just a matter of how creative am I going to have to get to be able to talk about it. Thanks to Tom, but you didn't stump me.
This one comes anonymously through our online-only show.
Ooh,
Why
this is
do
gonna
you
be
fly
good.
exclusively on Microsoft Flight Simulator?
It's nothing really more than time. I was explaining this actually right before the session started, right? Evan, we were talking about X-Plane. And with the amount of time that I spend preparing for the streams and testing things that are going to be on the stream, I honestly don't have time to support more than one sim, especially sims like Prepared and X-Plane, which can get to an incredible level of realism, but require a lot of add-ons, a lot of time spent setting them up, and then maintaining all that stuff, like just installing ortho in X-Plane, the amount of storage you need, the amount of time it takes, and you end up with a really good result. But I honestly don't have time to maintain all that stuff and still be able to create the content. And obviously, it's still, I've only been streaming for 1 year, and I have big dreams for the channel, not just in live streaming, but a lot of you have heard me talking about the training series that I've been planning to develop. and eventually sell as a standalone product. That stuff takes a lot of work to create the foundations first and then to execute the recordings and the production. So it's purely a time limitation. I would love to have 3 machines that are always up to date. I can just sit there and the sims are perfect, ready to go. And every day I can just choose, like, I want to fly this today, I want to fly that today. But it's not practical, right? So I have to choose one. And in choosing one, Microsoft was the least, I would say, maintenance-heavy sim that I could choose. It does limit me currently because there's only a few planes that we can use compared to the other sims. But I think everybody has seen that, Microsoft has achieved insane success with the sim, especially with the Xbox release. And a lot of the developers are working on flight sim versions of their product, so it's a matter of time.
Shea, do you have a question from the room?
Hi, Ken from Centennial near Denver.
I can.
I think it's no secret that you're an inspiration to a lot of people, and I think in a lot of ways. In particular, you're not shy about being honest with your mental challenges sometimes. In particular, I remember there was a stream recently where you said that it was the first time that you would click the go live button, and it didn't feel like it was I can't remember exactly what you said, but it was the moment where he's like, oh, this is the one time that I've clicked it, and it's like I feel good about it.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm wondering, what is your secret to keeping going every day and clicking that button? Right. What is it a thing you say to yourself? Do you have some sort of mantra? Is it a kiss from your wonderful partner? Maybe a slap in the butt. Right. What's the thing that keeps you going? Right. What do you For somebody that might be struggling to do what you're doing, how would you help them go live? Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate that. And it's a very good question because it's a topic that we as a society don't really talk as much as we should about, mental health. And even the lighter stuff of mental health where, okay, I'm not saying you need help or therapy, but just you have some anxiety in something that you do in your life, right? And how do you deal with that kind of thing? And so, yeah, it's very true that until very recently, I've always had anxiety in turning on the stream, right? Because you have to be on. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to do what I do. But at the end of the day, there's also an expectation from everybody watching, right? There's an expectation from my subscribers of a certain quality, of a certain level of content that's going to be there. Of a certain level of personality that I'm going to show on stream, right? I mean, I could just show up and be, talk like this. And, so there's always pressures when you have to be on like that. And they definitely create anxiety. At least they did early on. I think it's something that you more grow used to than grow out of. They're always there. I remember there was a Brazilian singer that I really like, and he's very famous in Brazil, but super loved, right? One of those guys that doesn't pay a bill, hasn't paid a bill in his life for the last 50 years kind of thing. He's a national treasure. And to this day, he said he shakes before he goes on stage because he's extremely nervous to perform in front of people. Even though he knows that, like, no matter what you do, you could be the worst today. It doesn't matter, right? Your career alone, like, people are going to love you. It doesn't matter. He's nervous, right? That's human. That's natural. That may be, Sky, another thing that you tell an early streamer is that's normal, man. You're going to be nervous. As a matter of fact, if you're not nervous, you should be concerned, right? Maybe that means you don't care as much as you should. The other thing I think is just a general sort of, I guess, recommendation that we all need to talk a little more about, which is it's okay to talk about mental health, right? It's okay to get help for mental health. You get help if you stub your toe. Why don't you get help if you think there might be something going on, right? So it's to treat mental health with the same importance as physical health. I think that's really as simple as that. It's how we should approach it. And one of the things you said has helped me tremendously too, which is opening up to chat, opening up to the stream and saying that, yeah, guys, I am anxious about this, right? I do have my challenges. And it's incredible. My mom and dad talk about this all the time. They're from a different generation, right? They didn't grow up with computers. They still struggle to understand how people relate so much online today. They think it's wonderful, but it's still foreign to them, right? And mental health, definitely not something you talked about in their generation. And so they're always amazed at how people open up on chat to share. Somebody says something and you see like 20 other people will commiserate, right? They'll say, me too, or oh man, and this other thing happened to me. And that kind of space where you feel safe to share, there's nothing better than that, right? I think we as humans, that's what we're looking for. We're looking to relate to other people, to have people relate to us, have people get us. And even though a lot of online communities are pretty toxic, ours is the opposite, right? It's incredibly welcoming to that kind of stuff. I got a message the other day that I shared with my parents, I shared with Abby of a viewer that it was a long message, but it was really amazing to read because he struggles with depression. I find it very overstated, but his words were that my stream was what carried him through the last few months, right? That he looked forward to coming and watching every day, to see me, to see people in chat, to say hi to everybody, and that it saved his life, right? And just to be able, it's incredibly humbling to read something like that, to know that you have an effect like that. And it's, again, not just me, I'm just a facilitator of that. There's an entire community that allows that to happen. And so it's part of why I wanted to come up here and talk, Ken, is because I feel like I'm just a conduit, right? You know what I mean? This is just a community of amazing people. I'm just a part of that community, and I happen to be one of the voices that can get that word out. But the community has been incredibly supportive of me, of mental health, and so it has become easier, and it's true. Yeah, the other day I turned it on, and it was the first time I was like, perfect. You know, Abby was asking me today, she goes, are you nervous for your talk? And I go, no, I'm feeling like super great. I'm amongst friends, you know. And I've never been a shy person. It's never been oh man, you know, I'm really nervous to go talk up there. But I don't know, I feel at home. It's as simple as that.
I know we got another question coming up from the room, but I'll take one off of Twitch from Shack Attack 12. Did your partner think you were a huge nerd when you started streaming? And perhaps I should follow it up with, does she still?
So Evan, and Shack Attack or Shark Attack, I'm extremely lucky in many ways, and one of them is in the partner that I have, because she's actually the one that pushed me and encouraged me to go stream. I always thought it was a bit of a crazy dream and a big reach, but Abby thought I should go chase my dreams, and I did, and it's been incredible. And it's funny because you feel like such a cliche, right? You've heard all these people, these successful people say, go chase your dreams, it's what you need to do. And you're like, yeah, easy for you to say kind of thing, right? But and I can't say that every single person that tried to chase their dream was successful, but you certainly won't be if you don't try, right? So it's been incredible to have a partner that not only supports me, but encourages me to do it.
She had a question up front.
You got that right. Hey,
Hey,
Cede.
Fabio.
How's it going, Cede?
I'm doing great. Shout out to Two-Tone, by the way, as well. So as a influencer, content creator, do you have any thoughts on what the flight sim community could be doing to expand our outreach to a younger generation, help develop and nurture a new demographic of flight simmers to help keep our hobby growing over the long term?
Again, just tough questions, man. Be nice. It's as simple as that, right? These are young minds that are afraid of coming into a new community, into a new hobby that they know nothing about. They've been probably stepped on in other communities online when they play Call of Duty or whatever it is, right? So they're used to that sort of reception. And so, yeah, wow them with the opposite, right? Aviation is a huge learning curve. No matter what it is that your goal in aviation is. There's a ton of stuff that you need to learn. And it is an industry that tends to eat its young, right? It's not an easy industry to get into. And so, yeah, just be welcoming, right? These people, they are you, like you were one day. You know, you weren't born knowing. Help them. It's a very rewarding thing, I find, to help people, right? To see that at the end of the day, you made a positive difference in someone else's life. There's no money in the world that can make you feel that way.
Then we just got one more back here.
Oh, back there.
Hi, I've been a subscriber for a couple of months now, and I just love your channel.
Thank you.
I also love your style, the fact that you can ask any question, and no matter how complex or simple it has been, you just treat it the same way, and that's just really awesome.
Thank you.
Also, is there a chance that we might be able to meet Abby right now?
Well, get up here. Come on. I think the microphone will pick you up too.
Okay, hi.
So thank you, by the way, for saying that. And I think are we good time-wise, Evan? Okay, thank you. Oh, look at that.
Okay.
So, but thank you for saying that, because it's another cliche, but it's a cliche because it's true that behind every successful man, there's a powerful woman or a strong woman. And it's certainly true in Abby's case. This is not the Fabio show, it's the Fabio and Abby show. And just like an aviation maintenance mechanic, people don't know that. People see the captain up front, right? They don't see all the people that maintain the aircraft and allow the aircraft to arrive safely at their destination. They don't see the behind the scenes stuff. Abby certainly is the most important part behind the scenes and what allows me to do what I do. So thank you for recognizing that.
I don't think they had questions for me.
They might though, they might.
So.
Sure they do. Don't you guys have questions for Abby? Oh, look at that. Sky has a question for Abby.
I'm like, you can have this back.
So just make sure you repeat the question for the stream when it gets asked, please.
Okay.
Sure. So, what percentage do you attribute Fabio's good looks to hard work?
You have to repeat the question.
What percentage do I attribute Fabio's good looks to hard work?
To his stream, or what ratio, hard work and good looks?
Like, how much effort does he put into his looks?
Oh, yes.
Like 2%. No, really. No. He's naturally just gifted, obviously. I think the biggest thing we just had to
I'm gonna
work
go
on-
now. I'll see you guys later.
I mean, we heard George Clooney. I think the biggest thing we had to work on was just him getting a better haircut and better clothes. But he did that. So he honestly wakes up and looks good. So unfortunately, it's a lot more work for some of us. So 2%.
Thank you, Sky. Great question.
We have a question from Nicholas on the stream for Abby. What's with all that noise from the kitchen during the streams?
It's from Fabio not cleaning up the night before. So I
Oh,
have
nice.
to clean.
Nice. Thanks, Nico.
Other questions from the room? Anyone else in the room want to ask anything?
Any other questions, guys? Oh, one there.
I've got a question. As far as conflict resolution, I'm glad you haven't really experienced that, but online I've seen it in some chat rooms. I'm a Microsoft Flight Simulator X guy, and Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 guys out there. And sometimes we get in conflicts. What's your ideas of conflict resolutions? I also do scenery design, and sometimes I get some conflicts about my sceneries, and people complain about what I do. What do you do to kind of resolve that?
All right. So for our friends on YouTube and Twitch, the question was, how do you address conflict resolution? The person asked the question is a Microsoft Flight Sim X user, and he's saying sometimes I get in conflicts with people in other sims. He also creates sceneries, and sometimes there's conflict with people voicing their opinions, perhaps, about your work. So I say, especially online, number one thing is don't take it personally, right? These people don't really know you or who you truly are or what you're about. They've seen a tiny sliver of you, and they're judging you on that, right? And so it's developing the ability to not take it personally, which is not easy. Not easy. We were talking earlier, right, Ken, that I think we all have to admit that we're extremely emotional animals, and emotions will happen before that logic can kick in. So be able to not take it personally helps tremendously. And then second is, don't be too proud of your own argument, of your own work, right? Meaning, hey, they may have a point, and perhaps this other party is expressing it in a bad way. They're being aggressive about it, right? Or they're being rude about it. But the point may still stand. And so the second thing I would say, and this helped me a lot through my professional career, was to be able, especially when I got into management, was to be able to separate the argument from the delivery, right? The point from the delivery. We can address the delivery later, right? I don't want you to talk to me this way. We can talk about how you do that next time. But I recognize that what you're saying is correct. We do need to address this issue, whatever it is, or you're right, you have a point. And third is, and this is the toughest one, right? Especially when there is conflict, especially when you're being not attacked, but talked to in a way that you don't appreciate, etc., is kill them with kindness, right? Treat them like you want to be treated. And more often than not, that does diffuse the situation at least a bit. And if it doesn't, at least you have that high road that you took to look back into and go to bed at night and say, hey man, I tried, I did everything I could. At the end of the day, you can't fix them, right? If there is no fixing, there is no fixing. More often than not, people are not as bad as they seem online, right? It's just because they had a bad day or because something happened and they're just kind of taking it out on you. They may not even realize they're doing that sometimes. So I try to follow those things, and those three premises tend to keep me pretty happy and going back to going online.
Last question from Twitch is from Dalmatian. Who do the cats like better?
You want to answer that?
No, you can answer that one. Go ahead.
I would like to say that the cats like me better, but lately that's been changing. Shadow is very close to both Abby and I, and she always sleeps in bed with us next to me. But lately she's been shifting and sleeping more with Abby, so I think she's a traitor that we should get rid of now.
I think they both like me more now. Both of them, because I give them more attention now.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's more based on who's home more. I think the cats just want attention. They're not that particular.
Cats don't really like anybody.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. But thanks, Evan. I appreciate that. Guys, any last questions here? Over here?
All right. Hi, Fabio. Nico Boss over here.
Hey, Nico Boss. How's it going, man?
Very good, man. I got a question for both of you. Obviously, it takes a lot of preparation to start a stream, and even offline, especially when you started the V6, studying the manual and stuff like that. How do you determine when is a good cutoff time to, balance work and home?
Yeah, that's a tough question too. So for online folks, the question is, how do you balance your life with work and home, knowing that outside of streaming, you got to spend all this time reading manuals, learning the planes, flying, testing stuff. I think Abby's here to tell you it's still something I'm learning, Nico. It's tough. I have a tendency, and I've always been this way, it's just the way I'm built. I have a tendency to kind of focus on whatever it is that I'm doing, and that becomes the single thing I do in life, right? So if I'm focusing on the stream, everything else in my life falls apart. If I'm focusing on our relationship, everything else falls apart. That's typically how I am. So I've done a lot of work to outgrow that, but it is hard. One of the things that's helping me, Abby is a very organized person. She uses, one of the things she uses to stay organized is a planner, just a simple paper planner. And so I'm trying that now, as simple as that sounds, right? Just having a morning routine before I stream, an evening routine, and really kind of reviewing the things. I look at it this way, Nico, I have many hats. One of my hats is I'm a father. I have 2 kids. One of my hats is I'm a son. I have 2 parents that I have to think about. I'm a boyfriend, right? I'm a streamer. So I have several hats. And the trick, I find, is shifting hats often enough, right? Because if I don't think about it, I'll just put one hat on and stay with that hat forever. So doing the morning routine where I have to kind of review my things, my goals for the day, both my professional and personal goals for the day, for the week, for the month, it allows me to remember that, oh, this afternoon I got to put that dad hat on because I need to work on that thing for the kids that I told them I was going to do. So it's staying on top of it, which I'm not very good at, so I use some tools like a planner to try and do it.
And from a partner's viewpoint, because there's a lot of partners involved in those who are streaming or those who are watching, I'll even say take a break because I'm sure like some of the partners want their partners back from your stream. Like they need a minute to hang out with them too. I want you and they want their partners. But be supportive and be involved. So and be patient. We still have days where we have to figure out like when are we going to hang out, when are we going to have quality time together. There were times when we weren't getting much time together and we had to get through that too. And finding what works for your relationship and having supportive people around you. And be involved. So I'll ask him, what are you doing for stream tomorrow? Or what are you going to be planning tonight? Or how did it go? Who was there? And I come on and see you guys sometimes as well. So I'm excited about it, or I'm understanding it as well. So it's not some foreign concept to me where I don't know what he's doing or who he's talking with, and it's not a matter of being a nosy partner. But like I said, being supportive and involved. So it's a community that you're involved with as well. And you can network with other people. I've met some pretty cool people already who are partners of other streamers or partners of people who are friends of Fabio, and it's been really cool to be involved like that as well. So just surrounding yourself with good people who are supportive of your dream if you want to chase it.
Yeah.
I think we maybe have time for one more if we do it very, very quickly.
Okay, last question. Joey.
Okay, so this is for both of you.
Quickly.
So, in the sim and in real life, where would you like to go, or where have you been? And what's your favorite place to travel, or what would you like to go see in the sim?
Ooh, okay.
Where we want to go.
Okay, so let me just repeat the question for online. So Joey Bolo asked, in the sim or in real life, what's a place you'd like to visit or that you've been to and you love, kind of thing?
Should we say it on 3 where we want to go? We both want to go and see if we have the right answer?
Oh boy.
Okay. Let's see. 'Cause
No.
we both said we want to go.
No.
We've talked about this, remember. I'll give you hints.
Oh, right, so she sets it up even worse. We've talked about this, remember.
It's a short answer where we plan to go one day, okay?
The what?
It's a short word.
Oh boy.
Do you
Okay.
need me to count you down?
1, 2, 3.
Fiji. Yes.
Yeah!
There you go.
Fiji. We're going to go to
Fiji it
one day.
is. Fiji it is. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me up, guys. I'm going to leave you now.
Okay.
I'm going to take
Well, actually,
Yeah,
if
take
you could
that.
stay for one more question
okay.
from me, if that's okay, I would just love to hear what you guys think of your first ever FlightSimExpo.
Oh, it's been fantastic.
Well, it's my first FlightSimExpo. So I was actually talking to somebody today and I said I had no expectations. I didn't really know what it was going to be like. And I didn't know what it was going to be like to hold one like this, during a pandemic. Because we obviously know we would have more people here, more exhibitors if the world was normal right now. It's been incredible, man. And Evan, it's not because you asked. I think everybody who watches my stream knows I shoot pretty straight. I'm actually really impressed with how well organized everything was. That initial presentation today at 9 a.m. when you guys kicked it off, you and Phil, amazing information, super well delivered. Like every one of my questions was answered immediately, like boom, boom, boom. It's really been a class act to watch you guys do this and do this in a bit of a challenge of not having enough people here, not having sold the tickets you probably would like to sell. So really, props to you, props to the team. This is an incredible event and an event that I think the community needed. Right, the community really only exists online for most of the year. So being together like this is an incredible opportunity for everybody to get to know each other, right? To exchange all kinds of great information and to grow the community. But I would like to remind people, if I may, Evan, that you can still get tickets if you didn't attend in person, right? You didn't have your online ticket. You can buy tickets after the event. Is that right, Evan?
That's right.
And it will do what, 60 days access to the videos.
Exactly.
All right. So so if you miss FlightSimExpo, you didn't really miss it. You can buy a ticket. You can go back and watch all of the sessions that have been recorded for 60 days. Perfect. There you go. So if you missed it, you didn't really miss it. which I think is awesome too. And if you attended, Evan, is that true too, that if you attended in person, you also have access for 60 days to us? So if you are here and you missed any sessions, you can still watch them online, which I think is awesome. So congratulations to you and team, man. This is an incredible event.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Great presentation, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you everybody for attending today. We have a meetup tonight, 7 p.m. by the fire pit out there by the lobby. Grab a drink at the Monkey Bar and join us at 7 for a good time. All right, thanks everybody.